Aloha out there in radio, television, and internet land. This is Jason Schwartz, your host of The Neutral Zone, MauiNeutralZone.com, KAKU Radio, 88.5 FM, Akaku, Maui Community, I say TV, although we now are media, this new world growing up. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on my show, Maui Neutral Zone. Campaign 2022 has kicked off, me interviewing people, even though I'm a candidate. So consider this me doing what I do and showing you who I am by showing you who and what I can add to the conversation wherever I sit, but on council. But I have a guest today who many of you in Maui County could not help but know. It's Kelly King, who is right now on council and has been incredibly valuable. She'll tell you how she has been, I'm sure, but she's been helping really awaken this responsible group of people in Maui and our council and really brought a brightness and a hope. But Kelly, firstly, welcome to our show again. I haven't seen you in a while where we had a chance to sit and talk.
Yeah, aloha, Jason. Thank you for the invitation. I'm so excited to be able to share some of the issues of the day with you.
Now, over the last, how many years have you been on council now? A decade almost?
In my 6th year.
You are a majorly accomplished woman. Before that, what were you doing?
Well, I have a long history of community activism. So, in my early days of shortly after my first child was born, I started getting involved in the community, building playgrounds, running playgroup, getting involved in PTA issues, and lobbying for a better school in our area, trying to get air conditioning and things like that. And then I actually ran for the State Board of Education and won that seat. So I served on the board for 4 years and really focused on local governance for schools. I supported the school community-based management. I supported the integration of curriculum throughout the schools, and which actually happened. And then mostly been involved in renewable energy since then with the company that my husband and I founded, Pacific Biodiesel. So we spent a lot of years building up, creating the industry nationwide, and then building up the concept of community-based renewable energy. It's very important how you do something as much as what you're doing, because there's a right way and a wrong way to do everything. And you can really screw things up by trying to corporatize things and get too big and too controlling. So our model has always been that it should be within the community, run by someone in the community, and returning the benefits back to the community, sort of like the circular economy is talking about. We've actually become a poster child for the circular economy. And then
do you think our public knows what a circular economy means?
I think people use that word, and I don't think that they necessarily understand. So
self-contained, right? It can become.
Right, and the visualization of what we're doing with Pacific Biodiesel, which we finally realized our goal. We've come full circle with not just taking the used cooking oil to make into renewable diesel that is cleaner burning, is locally produced, and provides green jobs. But we've actually started, now that we're farming, we're actually producing cooking oil to sell to the restaurants, and then we take that back afterwards and make it into renewable energy. So it's completely circular. It's been one of the things I've been talking about for 15 years, and now we're getting there where everybody's on board. This is one of the components that was missing from the farm to table. Nobody could figure out how to get local cooking oil. So now we're doing that with the sunflowers and with macadamia nut oil.
Well, you've been a tremendous leader. In fact, when I try to describe things to people, I always tell them, near Kelly's sunflower farm, near the sunflower, and you guys were hosts for a concert here for Ukraine recently. You have been a long time. I remember when you were running for board and everyone said, oh, that's a woman you should really listen to, Kelly King. She's different than the rest. You have been different than the rest.
Thank you.
You have been incredibly outreach. I don't want to name other of your compatriots that I agree with, and some that I don't, but you're amazingly out there. The reason I'm holding this up is only because, you see, it says a village to reinvent the world. In 1991, 92, my brother's wife was talking with me. I had just moved to Maui a few years. This is the most sustainable model in the world. UN decided 1974. This is amazing to me that there's so many things that can be done that we don't explore that are already proven. You and I have been involved with this project we talk about, taking green waste and algae. That's another subject for another day of, the things that you reach out to try to bring new technologies. But some of these technologies are around for 30 years. Why don't you think we're not seeing that more here?
Well, we're one of them. We've been in business for 27 years.
Yeah.
We've watched a lot of big corporations come and go, and especially when the algae bubble was happening and everybody thought that algae was going to save the world, we saw a lot of multinational companies come in and take money out of the state, whether it was from grants, state grants, or investment capital from local people, or government assistance. And we still haven't seen a drop of algae biofuels. So we my husband and I and our company figured out early on that was not a good model, because you can't really extract oil from algae economically. It's like 3% oil, and the amount of technology it takes and the amount of energy it takes to extract the oil from it costs more than what you're going to be making off of it. So from the beginning, we saw that, and we were trying to, we're not, one of the problems with companies like ours is we don't spend a lot of time and money on professional lobbyists or professional PR campaigns. We're just doing the work. We know it works.
That is so great, because you have hands-on experience with what works and what doesn't work.
Right.
And it has to prove itself to be profitable for you to be considering it, which that really has been such an important piece when it comes to looking at the development of renewable technologies and sustainability. And
profitable is a key word, Jason, because what we've always said is, we need to make a living, but we don't need to make a killing. And when you look at some of the ways that big corporations have stepped into this space and tried to do biofuels, it wasn't sustainable, wasn't regenerative, was not locally community based. They are, it's big money coming in because they feel like they could make big money. I remember back in the 80s or the late 90s and early 2000s, we put a conference together in Texas to talk about biodiesel. And we had a speaker from Chevron Chevron was trying to delve into, in the early 2000s, trying to delve into biodiesel. And they announced that it wasn't going to work for them because they produced it for a year and only made $12 million. And you can imagine we're talking to folks who are making it in their backyard or have a small production, and they're like $12 million. That would $1 million would have made them continue in the business. So it's like that.
Haven't we always heard that there are the things like the ones that make a lot of profit, that happens. Thank you, Elon Musk. But the ones that are the low-hanging fruit, maybe they make way less profit, but all these things together can change the world. That's right. What we need to be here. Aren't we at enough of a crisis in the world that greed shouldn't drive what we do?
Yeah, and unfortunately it often does. But if you look at the people who are working on the ground, who are returning profits to their community through local revenue, and like for people like us, we've put our heart and soul, and we've leveraged everything. I mean, there were times in this industry with, in our company, that we thought we would go under, if things didn't work out. We thought we were weeks away from going under because of the way the presidents have shifted, and the tide of public opinion shifts back and forth. Yeah. And it's hard to invest a lot when, somebody like Trump is going to come in and then totally derail all the regulations for helping renewable energy get a foothold. And so, but we believe in it so much, and it's so valuable to our community that we've leveraged everything we've had at different times and put our heart and soul and our car and our house and our kids' college education fund into it, because we felt it was that important. And we've really been big risk takers, but also because we have solid goals and values, and we feel like if it did fall apart, we start all over again. We're not people who need to make $1 million a year to stay alive. And we've got most of our lives, we made a modest living, and as long as you're making a living, that's something really valuable. And if you have relationships in your community and personal relationships, Bob and I have been married for 39 years now, then you have that stability in your life that helps you go out and take those risks.
I have to stop you. 39 years married. You're not that old. What
I'm older than you think.
39 years. Well, to me, love drives it, the passion. I love hearing that. When I got here in 1988, I've been on this trip. You don't know that I was a solar energy broker in Los Angeles and talking to apartment building owners and doing solar. Come here, everyone's set in their old little traditional, make a lot of money ways. We've stuck it out when they take tax credits and then they stop them. And I hear you totally. It's like that commitment to the community and renewable energy and self-sustainability. I laugh when I look at my website. This book, they found me and invited me to a conference in 1995 or 6 or something like that with the guy that started this community. And you hear about a blue economy now, the blue concept. The other guy is Gunther Pauly from Zero Emissions. There's so much more we can do. Sometimes I wonder when you're in the seat, if you're so busy that you don't have time to be helping develop it in the private sector. I'm hoping the private sector is listening.
Yeah, I feel like I've been hindered a little bit because people who don't want to see this happen or are competing for my spot, politically, will lash out and call conflict of interest. So I really have stayed away from trying to promote our business. But we have and this is a really interesting statistic. We make about 1% of the fuel for the state of Hawaii, and we have around 90 employees now. We used to have 100, but we had to, during the pandemic, we lost some. The petroleum industry makes 90% of the fuel, and they have less than 400 employees. So that shows you where the jobs are. The potential for green jobs is amazing if we go the right direction. And so, I've had confidence in our company, my husband running it, and our management staff, our employees. Everybody's so dedicated that they've continued to push the boulder uphill. And today we just blessed the first mobile biodiesel station at a small boat harbor. So we've got one at Ma'alaia now. The boats can just pull up, fuel up with clean renewable fuel, and they don't have to have the delivery charge that for us delivering it directly to the boat. But those things are continuing to happen. And now we're finally, because we've been around long enough, we're finally able to partner with the state and get state support. Chair Case from Department of Land and Natural Resources was out there today and just as thrilled as we were that now we have this option for the harbor. And so we've got a couple other harbors, one on the Big Island that we'll be doing next. But this is
me holding my heart. I'm holding my heart because you're just singing. My heart is so happy that you're doing the things you're doing. I always wonder now. There's rumor we always hear that Kelly is going to not be on council. Now we know you're not going to be on council, and there's talk of you running for another race. You've been so valuable. I sure hope that you'll be somehow valuable in public service no matter what, even if it's from the private sector. I'd like to see where you're going, because you must have thought really hard before deciding, I think I should really think about being in the state. There's so many important roles to be played. What kind of things do you think? There's really been a shift in my mind of like Kelly King and some of the others that are working locally and suddenly now maybe have a bridge if they were having more responsive people in the state. Wow, could we up the game here on what we could do?
Yeah, and I've been fortunate that just in my work, creating the Climate Action, Resilience, and Environment Committee on the council,
right,
led me to a role on the board of ICLEI USA, which is a part of a global organization that's focusing on environmental and climate action around the world through local governments. And also, I've been the first member from Hawaii on the Local Government Advisory Committee to the EPA. So I've been able to take a bigger role beyond just the county and start sharing with others at the state, federal, and global level some of the things we are doing in the county, because we've really been pushing the envelope. When I proposed the chemical sunscreen ban, one of the options was to make a list of chemicals that would be banned. And what happens, what I heard from the pharmaceutical industry is, well, if you just make a list of chemicals, those are trademark names. And what happens is the companies that make those chemicals can take a chemical, add a little something else to it, call it something else, and now it's not on the list. So now it becomes legal. So we went full bore and we said, we're just going to ban all chemicals. That's what was recommended to us by the pharmaceutical industry, by the folks, the PhD folks who were the first ones to make the connection between the chemicals in sunscreens and the deterioration of the reef. And you have, and to me, if it's worth doing, if it's worth creating an ordinance, it's worth trying to create the best ordinance we can that's going to have the biggest effect. And we've been told now that once this sunscreen ban goes into effect, which is October 1st, although we have a lot of stores that are already changing out from the chemicals to the mineral sunscreens, but that we'll see as short as a 90-day period, we will see a difference in the reef and the ecosystem.
That is so great to hear. What issues now, if I were going to pick issues that would be unfair, I'd like you to kind of give me an idea of things that you think are important to discuss now, because I could go everywhere, and maybe housing is definitely somewhere in there, and water, but I'd like to hear what you think the important things are that you'd like to address.
Yeah, housing is definitely important, and especially because it's one of the reasons. It's not the only reason that young people leave is because they can't afford housing, but the other part of that is diversifying the economy. Because the other reason why our young people leave is they don't have a pathway to a real career here, and unless they're interested in working 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 low-paying jobs in the tourist industry, serving food or cleaning rooms or things that they're honorable jobs, but we've got to get those pay scales up. And the tourism industry doesn't offer a lot of high paying family wage earning jobs with full benefits. So if young people want to get into technology or medical research or the healthcare industry, the film industry, there's not a lot of opportunities for them. So right now I'm working with an ad hoc committee that Chair Lee has put together to make recommendations for diversifying the economy. And some of the things are related to housing because we have shortages in healthcare, in the police, force, in teachers. We have a real big shortage in teachers here in the state of Hawaii. So one of our proposals that she's putting together is occupational preference for affordable housing, meaning a certain percentage of it would be reserved for one of these occupations where we're having shortages. And so a lot of these things link together. If we have a big enough vision, we can create the world that we need to create so that all of these issues support each other.
Right.
Housing is really important, and since I've been on the council, I've brought in 5 projects to South Maui that are affordable. 4 of them are affordable rentals, because that's what I was hearing when I first got elected. We need rentals, and one of them is an affordable for sale housing project. But the first one opened in 2020, which to me is breakneck speed. We approved the extension in 2018, and 2 years later they were open. It's up at the top of Kaiwahine Road in North Kihei, and it's not. If you go and look at it, it looks like a very nice apartment building. It doesn't look like a slum. It doesn't look like low income, and yet it's for the lowest income, the 60% AMI and lower. And so we've had families that were making a combined income of $40,000 or less, being able to rent a 2-bedroom apartment starting at $511 a month. So
isn't that exciting? And now that you have the plans, right? Isn't like a printing press? Can we do it on scale?
They're doing another project right above and this is really exciting because it's right above the golf course in mid Kihei, central Kihei, off of the POA. Where I used to hear in my first term, we would never put affordable housing in a place with a view or near a golf course. No. This is a beautiful location that has a view of the ocean, and we're putting affordable housing there. And finally, we're not judging people by their income and saying it's not worth it to give them housing if it's got a view or it's on a valuable piece of property. Every person has a value in this community, and it shouldn't be based on their income. So those are the things. Those are the first couple of and by the way, these projects I've been working closely with the developer, and they're LEED certified, and they told me they were going for silver LEED certification. They said, but knowing you, Kelly, and we know how important the environment is to you, we pushed it to gold. So both of these projects.
Let me just, the public, if you guys know what that means, these are energy efficient housing plans that have been used in different places in the country. Great. So you're going for high certification of things. That's great. Those kind of things.
And if we could do it with affordable housing, then of course we could do it with market housing and other buildings. So it's been a real pleasure working with some of these developers who understand our needs. The one for sale project, which is on Kyola Place, it's like stone's throw from my house, is starting at $395,000 to buy a house. You don't see that anywhere else. And so, you know, it's important. It's really exciting to me because I've never in my lifetime, I haven't seen affordable housing projects that will address the lowest income people. And now we have so many projects in South Maui that are doing that and opening up. You know, they're not just pie in the sky ideas.
What about even lower house? I mean, have we seen a lot of equity sharing where owners of land decide they want to be partners? We hear about land leases where the county has to control it. But I keep seeing the private sector could increase it by themselves being involved in projects and doing even more than you can handle as a county. I am thinking that there's so much wealth in the ground. These people that are owning that land don't need to get all their money now. It's always a matter of choice, isn't it? You chose to go and not get so much money. And like you said, profit, not greed. In all these areas, we could do so much. I'm only bringing it up, trying to encourage the public to realize their participation is going to make the people that are in office that much more effective and more wanting to help you fast track these great things that are helping our community and making profit and showing that we, the people, can make all these changes. We can be an example to the world like we already are. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, others. That is so much of a blessing to all of us. Again, I'm singing your praises because I feel it. I don't know what to say. You know, the fact that we're in all districts and we all vote for all districts, but yet you think you're representing that district as a council person.
Yeah, and a lot of what we're doing here is not even just really district, even though it's in my district. There will be people, it's open to everybody on Maui. So, you know, there will be people moving into the district, and there are probably people who are commuting to jobs in Wailea, in the resort communities. So trying to bring them into someplace that's closer where maybe they can ride a bicycle to work, you know, and they can really cut down their greenhouse gas emissions. We need to start thinking holistically like this, like how do all of our communities fit together? How do all of the sectors fit together? The transportation sector, the housing sector, the renewable energy sector, the, you know, other industries that we'd like to grow, like the science and technology industry.
And I know that you've seen the sustainable plans. No one can deny after they see the sustainable plan that Jenny Pell and Maui Tomorrow is doing, and food security Hawaii. The brain here is going in the right direction. When you're sitting there in council, do you feel that you could ever use help from the state to help you? I mean, I always wonder, like when you're trying to be there, are you going to be able to?
I have gotten help from the state. I mean, the state was a big proponent of the chemical sunscreen ban. They came out, the DLNR came out and testified. And then after we passed it, they put in 3 mineral sunscreen dispensers at McKenna State Park and at Ahihiki now. So those are available to the public. Just, you know, if you didn't bring the right sunscreen, go over and get a couple of squirts of that and put it on you. So the state has been a huge partner in that effort, in our biodiversity focus efforts. You know, they've been testifying at the lighting. Well, we just passed the lighting bill. I call it the seabird lighting bill.
Yeah.
You know, change the lighting to help the seabirds, help protect the seabirds, because they are a valuable part of our economy and our environment. People don't realize how important the seabird droppings, or guano, or seabird poop, as DLNR likes to call it, are to our marine ecosystem and our shoreline ecosystem. And so by protecting them, we're actually protecting ourselves as well. So, you know, the state has been an amazing partner in these efforts. And the next thing I'm going to try to pass out of committee is the wetland restoration bill. So, we can start identifying, getting an overlay of where all the wetlands are. One of the issues with the wetlands is that some of them are dry now. We go through droughts and they don't lose their wetland status just because they don't have water in them. And we've seen decades almost of Kahului Pond being dry, and then the water comes back and it shows that it's a wetland. So we have to identify those areas before they get developed and keep them for in wetlands, and hopefully restore some of the other. We used to have over 200 acres of wetlands in South Maui. We're down to less than 25.
Wow.
25 acres. So where, I've gotten 3 projects going in South Maui to restore wetlands, and with 3 different local folks that live in South Maui. And, we're hoping to grow the wetlands and then, move the project, also looking at wetlands in other districts, because they're not just limited to South Maui.
Let me ask a question that I'm just thinking of, but you're in Kihei. Let me see how you respond. That traffic circle that's coming in front of the proposed school. I'm just always listening to people constantly squawking. Are they going to have ability to open that before they have a safe way to cross the highway for kids?
I hope not. I know the Land Use Commission has been adamant about making the DOE commit to doing the underpass, and that the roundabout does not preclude them having to do that. That nobody ever approved that as a substitute for the underpass, so that the kids could walk under the highway to get to school and not have to cross that highway. So, I wasn't a big fan of the roundabout, because I don't really think roundabouts belong on 4-lane highways. They're great on small side roads. The one at Liloa has been working great. We've never had a major accident, and we've never had a death or, anybody even hospitalized from any from that roundabout. But I was just in Scotland last year for COP26 and went through a lot of 4-lane. They have roundabouts every couple miles, but all of the roundabouts that were on 4-lane highway, well, most of them, not all of them, but had traffic lights in them. So they didn't really serve that purpose of keeping traffic flowing, because if you get caught in the middle lane going around a roundabout and you're trying to exit, that's a real problem.
I lived in New Jersey, and the New Jersey Turnpike had lots of roundabouts. I still have nightmares about that. I just don't know what it's doing there. I don't know who made those decisions. I hope that we don't have problems.
Yeah, I really hope we don't too. But
is there any road plan for behind? I just haven't been watching closely. I'm thinking when you go up Lapoa and they're developing that affordable housing, there's obviously going to be an upper highway, some kind of highway, and tie it into the spur that's going to go up country. What's our timing looking like on this stuff? Soon?
The upcountry road is not alive at this point. We had years when we were talking about it in South Maui, and I remember going to community meetings about it. The funding that we had back then lapsed. It was federal funding. It's going to take federal funding to build a highway like that. So that lapsed, and there's really been no resurrection of that project by either our county, our state, or the community. What we do have in our community plan, which is a couple of decades old, so we're right now in the process of updating that plan, is a statement that there should be no development Malka of the highway until we get the 3rd highway up above that planned, which is not in the works right now. I mean, there's you'll see ghost plans that have like maybe some kind of drawing where it would go, but we don't really have a concerted effort. Right now we're trying to get the North-South Collector Road finished. And that's going to be really important, because at some point that's going to become our South Kihei Road. Portions of South Kihei Road are already getting washed out. And as sea level rise progresses, we're going to have some major issues on that road. So the North-South Collector Road really needs to be the next focus point. And that also, because that's being planned as a multimodal transportation lane, there'll be bike paths, there'll be sidewalks to walk along that road as well. And even the road itself, the portion of the North-South Collector Road that I live on, which is called Kenoleo, further down it turns into Liloa. But the portion I live on has share rows on it. And the share row it's painted on there. It's a bicycle icon with an arrow. And what the share row means is that bicycles have the same right to the road as the cars. So if you see a share row on the painted on the road, that means if there's a car, if there was a bicycle in front of you or behind you, they are to be treated like a motor vehicle. They have that same right to be in the middle of the road, riding on the road, not just relegated to the bike path. So a lot of people don't know what a share row is. And there's a lot of things like that that I keep trying to urge the MPO to do a rules of the road workshop. So people
and put neon signs on the people that are on bicycles. I've sadly have lost, no kidding, half a dozen friends riding on bicycles that aren't seen when they're riding on highways at all different places in Kula, Kenaleo there, down below. It's like very sad. Bicycles. Remember Joe Bertram? Of course we remember Joe Bertram.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear about bicycle, I remember bikeways. We've been talking about this stuff. Seems like decades and decades. I'm just so thankful that we're thinking about bicycles. I hope that the sharing thing, it's just because we don't have enough room maybe to give them the dedicated bicycle thing. Like the one going toward Paia from Kahului. What a great thing to ride a bicycle a long way. I agree. It would be nice to be able to drive bicycles to work and get away from, excuse me, my phone just keeps attacking like yours.
Oh, we would all be in better shape too. You know, all of us who have the COVID-19 have actually gained the 19 pounds. You know, that's what I call my COVID-19. But you know, we need to start getting our next generations involved. You know, this issue that we had with child obesity when Michelle Obama came into the White House and started working on that really hasn't gone away because we don't have a lot of playtime for kids. You know, when I was growing up, recess was a big deal, and you know, you had recess twice a day. You went out in the yard and played, and you were encouraged to go on the jungle gym and all the other kind of equipment. And now we don't really have mandatory recess in the schools, and we don't see a lot of, you know, that's why I spent some of my early parenthood days building playgrounds in you know, getting the first super playground built in Kihei at Kalama Park. And then we moved up to Kula for 4 years because the schools are so crowded in Kihei. Dick Mayer talked me into doing the same thing up there for the Kula Park. But it's just, you know, giving kids just a fun, basically motor skill challenging activities to do outside is really important. And I think we've lost a little bit of that.
When you said that, it reminded me, I don't know why, of building playgrounds. When I was first building the Maui Arts and Music Association, 90s, I was of the belief that to build a playground costs money and we already get the money. And that's when I first came to the idea that people like to go to shows, like to go to art. What if at the show you said to them, you guys, thank you, you've just built this playground. Let's do this again and have another show. That's where the Maui Arts and Music Association concept, to raise the money to be able to do things in not only playgrounds, but get to that cutting edge that you guys who as a county don't want to put your money into some black box. They're going to drain all your money and give you no results. The hope of the world coming out and having art and music be that leader, create jobs here, diversify our economy here. I've been talking so long about it. This was not gray when I started this.
I started working with our film commissioner, Tracy Bennett, who does a really great job of bringing in projects here.
Great.
And actually started working with some of the union reps who, you know, want to see this industry grow. It's local jobs, and they're high-paying jobs. A lot of them are pretty high-paying jobs. His office has not grown a bit since he, you know, for probably a decade. He's the sole person in that office. He has no assistants. And that position is required to be on set. If there's a movie filming, they have to be on set every time they're working. So the poor guy is 24/7 has been running this office, but he's been building up the number of projects from, it used to be around 5 million. He's gotten it up to 15 to 20 million, you know.
And he has contacts in the industry that he's pulled at to try to encourage them and get them to come here instead of Georgia and all these places with the big tax credits. That's going to be an exciting thing. The fact that our school is having a creative media program to build up the skills here is going to feed into ideas that I know that we can really help our local media and arts community flourish and be focused and seen by the world. Now, that's, again, another subject for another day. I've been doing these shows for so long. After a while, I wonder if the people that I talk to ever listen to what I really said when they leave without talking about specific names. I have mentioned solutions and things for people to look at who are in offices for 30 years. And I guess that's, again, another reason why I feel like I kind of have to be there. Even when you want to deal with everyone on council, I'm sure, and people from the community, if you aren't there, you could not lead the charge like you are doing. You are key to making these things get manifest. You're working with the people and how you've grown to have a bunch of people on council who already, their frame of mind and everything has shifted because of you. I mean, I know we can go on. We still have time, but I want to give you a chance to talk about, I don't know, you know, there's things that are on your mind, and that, to me, rather than me asking you questions about specifics, I don't know.
A really detailed job being on the council, and one of the reasons why I really never wanted to do this, because there's just, you know, there's the water issues and the housing issues and the climate issues, the environmental protection issue. I mean, it just goes on and on. But you know, since I've been here and I was begged by my community to run for this office, I've learned so much, and I've learned how to navigate to really focus on important projects where you can actually make a difference, and you can the housing projects that I talked about. Doug Bigley is the one from Ikaiko Ohana who's doing these the first affordable rentals that I brought into my district. And he said, you know, Kelly, I've got 5 projects on the island now, and none of that would have happened if you hadn't found me and asked me to do this, you know, because he was looking at buying that bankrupt project. And he asked me, does Maui County had a really bad reputation for not wanting these projects and making it really difficult for developers. So he said, you want this project? You really want it? And I said, yes, we really want it. And I helped him, you know, get the extension they needed for it. And I supported the project. And I'm hearing from people now who have moved in who are like, we love this building. We love this apartment building. We love this location, and the rents are reasonable. And so some of the things that go through my mind constantly, besides all the climate issues, which, you know, make me wake up sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning, but the fact that because I talk about how all these things tie in, and that a lot of our social ills are caused by people having to work 2 or 3 or 4 jobs and pay these exorbitant rents. And so, you know, if we can start looking at the components that will help make it easier, less rent, you know, cheaper rent, so that they don't have to work so many jobs and they can be home with their kids. They can actually raise their kids after school. Then, you know, diversifying the economy to give our high school and college graduates a pathway to an actual career here. Because my own son is on the West Coast and head of research at Foresight Institute, because there's no job like that available on Maui.
Sure.
So, you know, when we start looking at what the needs of the next generation are, we will be able to move ahead with their needs, and we have to listen to them. So many, when I was brokering the deal with Earth Justice to settle the injection well case, when I was chair back in 2019, so many kids came out and testified and said, you know, we don't want our oceans polluted. We don't want the injection wells and the spewing dirty water into the ocean and killing our reef. And the fact that we got a bare minimum to, you know, bare majority to pass that settlement agreement. But we need to start listening to these kids and saying, you know, they're not just spewing a message that someone told them to say. They're actually learning about these things in school. They're learning about the importance of the reef, the importance of wetlands, the importance of, you know, scaling back on putting wastewater into the ocean. And then they're coming up with these ideas, and they want us to know. They want us to know that we're their leaders. We have to make these decisions for them, but they're right behind us.
When you were doing those kind of decisions, why would anyone on council not vote for that? Are there small technicalities that stop them? Why would they not?
there was a big lobbying effort. The mayor never bought into it, and that's why he didn't sign the settlement agreement. And so, under his direction, Corp Council was trying to put the fear of God into us, saying that, there could be, I don't know, extraneous expenses. It's going to cost us hundreds of millions of dollars to fix this problem if we lose this lawsuit, which wasn't the case. I know these people. I know the Sierra Club people. I know the Hawaii Wildlife Fund people. I know the Surfrider people. And I was trying to urge our chair back then, why don't we just have meetings with the plaintiffs and see if we could work out solutions? That's all they want. They're not trying to cost the county hundreds of millions of dollars. They're not trying to put money in their own pockets. They are working for a solution.
So,
and I was told, you don't know enough about this. You just got on the council. And I've been following that issue as a constituent for many years. And so I just didn't understand why we weren't working more. But, that's sort of my whole persona, is collaboration. I know we can do much more if we work together. I find, we used to hear a lot of angst between the people who want to support the feral cats and the people who are trying to protect the endangered birds. And I finally got them to start working together and looking at a solution like a cat sanctuary, which both sides supported. But that's the way to get things done, is you can't just take a side. You got to see how you can bring both sides and make a win-win situation to help out, the future of everybody's concerns.
well, I'm sure you see that's the reason I formed the neutral zone. Stop it. Put down your differences and let's all work together around the table so we all win. I know that when we like someone and if we're looking to find solutions, we can. I had Mike Molina on. I always know that he's looking to try to cooperate. Do you feel you have a pretty good environment there on council of people that are looking to make solutions happen? Or do you find they're a fixed position?
I think there are a couple of people with fixed positions and who are listening to kind of the old boys system, want to protect the way things have always been, and are probably listening to the establishment. But I think the majority of people of our council members are looking for solutions.
We have a couple of real holes now. This now election, with Mike Molina not going to be up country, there's a whole new seat. Where you're leaving, I know you gave one of the candidates a nod, and that'll probably help her a lot. But you never know. I'm running in Kahului, really just with all the people running. I want to give them what I think is a good choice in me. But it's going to be a very interesting election. I hope we have enough of that spirit that comes with a Kelly King continuing on in this next round.
And what I look for is vision and people who look at things holistically and not just trying to plug one small hole in one small area, but how is that going to affect, and one thing that's really important is to look at unintended consequences before you run full bore into something. So we do a lot of shaping legislation in my committee through education and bringing experts on before we get to the point where we're proposing a bill and or trying to pass a bill. We're trying to shape it into something that works for the administration, also works for the environment, and not just establishes goals, but attains the goals that are going to help us make a difference. Otherwise, there's no reason to pass a bill if it's not going to make a difference.
I don't know why this came to me. When I think about Josh Green's running, he's been shown as governor candidate, and a lot of people like him. And then I'm hearing Kai Kahului say, I'm not going to take anything over 100. As a little guy, that to me, 100 would be nice. But do you think that the big money is an issue in some of these candidacies? And I'm curious on your hit about that.
I think it used to be. I think it's not so much anymore an issue, because I've seen what we used to call the dark money ads, and all the establishment candidates being in those ads, and they don't necessarily win just because they're in those ads. So I think people are becoming more savvy to the source of the money. It's kind of follow the money and who's getting endorsed for what reasons. But I've also conversely, I've been on endorsement platforms with progressive candidates and had people that didn't like something someone was doing and ask me questions like, why are you supporting that person? I have to say, I'm on a progressive I'm being endorsed by the progressive folks at, the Pono Network or whoever it is that's putting those out. I don't get to choose who else is on there any more than, the people
Right.
who are being endorsed by unions get to choose who the unions are endorsing. So more and more, I think with the especially the virtual reality we've all been living in, where a lot of us are online like this, or looking at Facebook, or reading the news online. I think more and more people are getting informed about the candidates, and they're
I
making
hope so.
decisions based on what we stand for and what hopefully what our accomplishments are to date. Because I feel like I've got a lot of accomplishments built up, and people know that, and they're learning about it, and that should stand for more. A lot of times we hear what people say that speak in platitudes, like, I'm for you, I'm not for the big money, and but you don't know until they get into a public office exactly what they're going to do. And we've seen some people on our council switch, after getting on to thinking, being endorsed by the progressive folks, and then getting on council, not necessarily being as progressive. So having a track record is important, I think, and looking at the accomplishments and the goals and values of somebody who's already been active in the community or been in public office is really important. I think people are getting more savvy to that.
Well, and like you say, coming from the right place, I've seen it also where people have switched their things once they're in. The reason I was wondering about that, Kahului looked so happy as on the national level, and now that he's come back here and running in a primary, I guess he won't lose his seat if he loses in the primary, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's a comfortable time to run and be as dynamic and different as he is.
Well, that's not actually true, because the fact
No?
that he's a U.S. representative, he has to run every 2 years. So if he's running for mayor, he can't run for his seat again. If he was if he was a senator and he was in the middle of his term, he could keep his seat. But because you have to actually declare a candidacy for a particular seat, you can't declare a candidacy for 2 seats at the same time.
No, but like he's running for governor now. If he doesn't succeed at his primary, he's still a U.S. senator.
No, he had to file to run for, no, he's actually not a senator. He's a U.S. representative, and they have to run every 2 years. They have to run every 2 years. So he had to file for what he wanted to run for on this next ballot.
So someone is running for his seat now as well?
Yeah, there are a couple of people running for his seat because it's considered open. So yeah, you can't, you could hold on to your seat if you're a U.S. senator and you were in the middle of your term. But if your term is coming up, you have to decide what you're going to run for, and you can't run for 2 seats at the same time.
See, now, thank you for that clarification. Well, it's interesting. I am always happy to see you whenever I get a chance to talk with you, and I feel like I'm speaking to someone who listens and really strives to be out there. I am so happy that you've been part of this group and this, I want to say, change. I remember when Junior Moniz came up to me when I was sitting in, he said, "Who are you? I know you." He was now out of seat. And he said, "You're Jason Schwartz. You were right about things. You should run. We'd back you." I don't know who "we" is, but I hope that I come across to people as the same as you. I've been working at this. I've literally dedicated my adult life of 30 years to delivering meshes about this renewable stuff. I'm hoping that this is it. And wherever you are, that I'm going to have more access to departments that are listening in a different and more available way to help move some of these programs that they're overdue. It's about time that we really up the game. Yeah, I was going to say, whatever you decide to do, we need, I want to give you just a general level of support and at least an awareness. You may already know it. There are people that want you to be everything, whether they want you to run for this or run for that. You have been an incredibly valuable part of the fabric of Maui County and directing our future, whatever you decide to do and whatever it washes out as we're going here.
Okay, you sure have much for that, Jason, and I just really appreciate your willingness to step up as well and run for the seat, because you're right. When we get on the council, that's when we can really make true change. and we have access to the support and the legal, the legal fabric is important, because when you're writing legislation, creating policies, even writing resolutions that may not have the force and effect of law, you need that expertise with you in your office and with this council support services to make sure that you're on the right track. You don't have unintended consequences. You're addressing the needs of the people that are coming before us. And I feel like I've done that in a lot of ways. And I've met with just an incredible number of people, never refused to meet with anybody the first time. And I've learned the who in the community is trying to do something really important. So there are people that are trying to address our over tourism problems with smart tourism app. There are people who are building affordable housing that just need our support. They're in the thing I used to say when I was first running for office is the problem with why we haven't gotten affordable housing is because the developers are not being forced to communicate with the community. And and so they would design something on paper, they would walk into a community where they wanted to put it, and they try to convince everybody why they like this project. Instead of going in and saying, here's a proposal, what is there something you like about this? Is there something you don't like about it? And so the first project that I worked on with Doug Bigley from Ikaiko Ohana, which is now the Kaiwahini village, I told them that. And I said, you need to go talk to the Kihei Community Association. You need to talk to the neighborhood people. You need to talk to the council members. And, he got some feedback about some things that need to be changed. He changed his project. And then the Kihei Community Association was all behind him. That project sailed through so smoothly through the system because he had nothing but support. And that's what had been missing, because developers had not been forced to communicate with the community, with the neighborhoods, with the associations. And so there was always an angst, and there's always a pushback against these projects because, well, you never came to us first. So since I started representing this area along with the entire county, I've been every developer who has come into South Maui and wanted to develop has met with me first and has been directed to go talk to the Kihei Community Association, to talk to the neighborhoods, even expanding the requirement of 500 feet, and get the public on your side, because I'm not going to deal with anything that's offensive. I'm not going to support. There's affordable housing, and then there's appropriate affordable housing.
I remember when at one of those meetings, to see the developer, he was sort of shocked to look at an audience that wasn't applauding his plan. And
Right.
I don't know if I was at the one that was with Doug, but I can tell you, it is just what you bring has been so valuable. I don't know if we should mention it here or not. I know that you've decided not to run for council again, and you're looking to potentially run for a state race. What do you think? Do you think that at the state level there's all kinds of people positioning for different seats? I don't know where it's all going. I just want the public.
There's also a group of people who really wants me to run for mayor, and potential, because the deadline hasn't passed yet. And what I tell people, because I've had people ask me, what do you want? And my answer is, I'm not doing none of this is what I want for myself personally. No, there's nothing in it for me. I'm here to support the community, and I'm here as long as I can give something back to the community. So whatever, I'm kind of letting the people decide what they want me to run for, because I'll go where I can be most effective, but I don't have any glorified plans to use anything as a stepping stone and eventually get up to governor or anything. I'm just going where I think I can be effective and help progress be made and help the community come together to find mutual win-win solutions. That's really my only goal. I have no aspirations beyond that because I and it's funny, it's kind of been my history, and I think it comes from being an older child, like the oldest of 4 girls. Is my life has been about making sure everybody had what they needed, that everybody was working, playing nicely together in the sandbox, helping my parents, because I was always the one left in charge of the kids when they left to go out or whatever. And so that's sort of permeated in my adult life too. I really never knew anything about renewable energy, but I got involved in Pacific Biodiesel to help my husband with this goal. And the more I learned, the more I got involved in it and love the whole issue of sustainability and know how important climate action is right now. And so when I was asked to run for council, I said the same thing. I don't, it's not my aspiration, but you put together a team of people who really wants me to represent this position on the council. I'll run for the council. And so we had enough people to help me, because it's not easy to trying to beat an incumbent, and so that was a lot of work. And when I was told by people on my campaign, you're going to have to do this every 2 years, my answer was, I'm not doing this every 2 years. I'm just going to work so damn hard and get stuff done that people are going to see that and just vote for me again, based on my record. Because I understood coming in, I was an unknown factor, and I had to show people what I wanted to do and talk to them about my vision. And then I had to prove that I was able to do those things. So, I just wanted to assure the folks out there that whatever I'm running for for an elected position, it's because I feel like that's where I can best serve the people of Maui, and where I can make the most difference in, just aligning our, what I like to say, cultivating good governance and aligning our actions with our values.
I feel very blessed to have you here, and thank you for coming and joining me here on the show. I know it's unusual that a candidate interviews candidates, but especially in the primaries, with all these people running, I want everyone to get a chance to see all of the candidates. And thank you. Thank you for your service and your future service, I hope.
Okay, thank you so much, Jason. Have a great weekend.
You're very welcome. All you out there in radio, TV, and internet land, if you want to watch this again, go to MauiNeutralZone.com. Go to YouTube, put Kelly King, Jason Schwartz. You may see a few shows, but this campaign 2022 is richer with you in it, Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And for you guys out there listening and looking at these candidates, they appreciate every time you go to their website or check in with what they're doing, because, you are the most important part of all that we are doing here.
That's right. All right. Aloha.
Hello, everyone. See you again.